Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks very much for joining us today on the webinar on Sicon Barcoding for Sage 200. So my name is Howard Murphy, Business Development Manager for DB Computer Solutions. Sarah Vickers from Sicon, who joins us this morning, will be running through the features of Sicon Barcoding for Sage 200. So in short, introducing barcoding to Sage 200 is an extension of some of the more manual sales and purchase order processes. So the goal is to reduce the process time, reduce the amount of paperwork, get better transparency of stock throughout the business, and eliminates the human error element of it. Our demonstration now this afternoon will pertain to an overview of the product itself, hitting on its main functions. It can also be used in conjunction with some of Sicon's other manufacturing modules, which I'm sure Sarah would be happy to speak briefly on. If you'd like a more detailed deep dive, we would be happy to provide a one-to-one session where we can properly talk to you about your business and offer you a fuller demonstration based on your actual needs. So before I hand you over to Sarah, I'd remind you to put forward any questions through the Q&A within Teams or through the chat, and we'll do our level best to give you the answers at the end of the session. We'll try and answer maybe some of them during it, we'll see, depending. I'd also point out, if your shared screen's too small, just select View at the top of the screen, choose Focus on Content, and choose Full Screen from the other options there as well, just to give you the best view possible. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah, and sure, we'll have a chat through the session anyway, Sarah.
That's lovely. Thanks for that, Howard. Right, bear with me 2 seconds while I'm sharing the right screen. So hopefully, can you just let me know that you're seeing a tablet in front of you, Howard?
Can, yeah, can see that.
Perfect.
There, yeah.
That's lovely. Okay, so as Howard suggested, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat. If Howard feels that they're appropriate at that moment in time, he can interject. Otherwise, we'll pick up the questions at the very end. That's probably the simplest way of handling things this afternoon for everybody. So as you can see, I have a tablet. We're going to go through barcoding this afternoon for you. So I have a tablet. This is just one of many tablets that you can use. I don't know if you're seeing the tablet that I've got. I'm just showing it in the camera. I've got an integrated little barcoding device. As long as you're using a minimum spec of Android 5, that's all we need. So again, Howard can share with you some different devices that we've used. I've got a little Suic device, which is quite a good little device, I have to say, but we don't enforce a specific device. That's the nice thing about our application. So the way that barcoding works is very simple. It sits, as you can see here, as an app on that Android device. It then connects to Sage, as I'll show you in a moment, in a live environment. So that's the key benefit of this, is everything is live, but it doesn't need a Sage client license. So we're connecting via one Sage Web Connector license, which I suspect you've all got, but obviously Howard can check that with you if you haven't. Now, I've got to be fair, I've got quite a bit on my menu because, as Howard alluded to earlier on, we connect to various other applications of ours. So I should have just used that save password. There we go. So essentially, I will concentrate today on just the main core, so a very vanilla demonstration for you this afternoon. But if any of you want to go into this in a lot more detail, maybe it is relevant linking to some of our other modules like projects or kitting or works orders, then again, obviously you have a chat with Howard and we can do that on a one-to-one. So as I said, what I'll do is I'll skip over the ones that are not necessarily relevant for the majority of you today. So as you can see, I've got quite a few options in my menu down here, and it's worthwhile mentioning that that menu can be customized for your staff. So if there's certain things that you don't want your staff to see, I always use the example, as Howard knows, of writing off stock, because that's usually quite a contentious one, Howard, isn't it? Most organizations don't want the majority of the staff having that option on there. So it might just be a supervisor that has that one on the device and everybody else has that one taken off. So very simply, as you'll see me do in a moment, we'll come into Sage and we'll show you some examples of purchase orders and sales orders, and we'll show you this whole process all the way through. But it's really about eliminating duplication of information. Obviously, it's about eliminating all those bits of paper flying around all over the place. And let's save the planet as well as saving all you guys money on paper and printing and printer ink and all of the like. And it's also about eliminating error, because as we know, we're all, we're humans at the end of the day, so we're open to error. So the first thing that we can do, as you can see on the screen there, is we can receive a purchase order in, and that basically gives us the ability to link to standard Sage purchase order processing, as you'll see in a moment. Now, as you'll see, I've got a couple of options then when I book that purchase order in. I can either put it straight away, straight onto my shelf, or I can separately put it away. So I'm receiving it in, so Sage knows that I've got it in the building, and then I can put it separately away. Or I have the ability to do what we have this concept called wave put away. So if you're the type of organization that has lots and lots of purchase orders coming in on a day-to-day basis, you probably just want to get them in the building and then consolidate all of those purchase orders away and then walk around the building and put them away. So as you can imagine, that makes it a much more efficient way instead of doing one purchase order at a time. Now, for those of you who like to check, or perhaps you've not even considered this, you might do some form of quick quality check of the items that are coming in. We have the ability to lock your stock items down, and as you'll see in a moment, then do a quick question and answer, very customizable. The whole advantage is, as you can imagine, I don't then have the ability to pick an item and ship it out. Or for those of you who are perhaps manufacturing, I can't then pick that item and use it in a works order unless I've actually passed the inspection. And indeed, it will sit in an inspection bin location until such times as we've carried out that inspection. If, however, we failed the inspection, it will go into a dedicated quarantine bin location, which means it's locked down. And again, I wouldn't be able to go to that bin location to be able to pick it and then dispatch it. So as you can imagine, it's a really good way of making sure that you've got quality control and you're not shipping items out that haven't had that checking process. So in the same way that we can book something in, obviously we can dispatch an order out. And again, as you'll see in a minute, we're going to link to standard Sage sales order processing. So I can dispatch the sales orders and I can dispatch packages. For any of you that might be in the maybe to deal with food sector, might need to weigh items. We do have the ability to link to weighing scales. So what that means is that we can weigh the item, and if the item is a different weight to the sales order, it will then automatically update the sales order value for you. So let's say I've got a kilo of, I don't know, bananas, and I happen to weigh them and it happens to be 1.2 kilos, and therefore my price needs to be adjusted. It will automatically update the sales order for me without me having to amend that. Now, in the same way that we can do a wave put away, I've also got the ability to do a wave pick. So again, rather than me picking the same item for multiple sales orders separately, I can go around and pick multiple items for multiple sales orders. And again, a much more efficient way of doing things. Now, if any of you happen to do your own deliveries, we can also do pick and pack for specific vehicles. Now, hopefully not many of you will get returns, but if you do get a return, obviously we've got that process of receiving that back in and booking it back into stock for you. So we can move stock around bin locations. So bin locations, for any of you perhaps that don't have that set up at the moment, it's just simply a location within your warehouse. So where are your staff going to pick and put these items away? It just makes life an awful lot easier for your staff to know exactly where it is that they're going, particularly if you've got quite a big location. So we can move items between our bin locations, but of course we can also move items between our warehouses. So we can dispatch those items, and then on our stock inquiry, we'll be able to see that it's in transit, and then we can receive it at the other end. I mentioned that our barcoding links to a number of our other applications, and those include our projects module, our works order processing module, as well as our kitting module. And as you'll see at the very beginning, also our distribution module as well. And as you'd expect, we've got the ability to do stock takes in a couple of ways, which I'll talk about later on. And we'll pick up the other areas in a second. So let's come and show you this in action. So if you bear with me 2 seconds, let's jump back to my main screen. So if I come back to Sage 200 a second, so let's jump back to Sage 200. you'll see that barcoding just simply sits as an integrated module, but as I've mentioned already, your users in the warehouse will be connected via that one-stage web connector license via the tablet. So let's start off the process by coming into a purchase order. So standard stage purchase order processing, we're not doing anything particularly different just yet. And in true blue Peter style fashion, as they used to say when I was a kid, here's one I've prepared earlier. I'm showing my age already here. That's not good, Howard, is it?
Not mine.
You knew what I was referring to then, clearly, Howard. Okay, so we have purchase order 5221 here. Now, I've deliberately added a couple of items on here to show you how traceability works. So for those of you who have any form of traceability, whether that's batch traceability, expiry dates or serial numbers, you'll see when we come to the sugar that your users will be forced to put in that information. Now that can be done, as you'll see me do, actually manually, but you can actually subscribe to a third-party company called GS1. Now Howard can send you the information, or please do just do a quick Google search, literally just pop in GS1, and all that basically means is that instead of your users having to manually key that information in, the barcoding label will also include that information, that additional batch information for you. So again, as you can imagine, much easier, much quicker.
Yeah, so typically anybody who involves themselves in barcoding, they really need to subscribe up to GC1 as a standard anyway.
Yeah. So as you can see, I've not received in any one of those just yet. So if I now flick back to my barcoding device, imagine I'm now one of your guys in the warehouse, and obviously I've got my device. Let's flick back to that. Right, let's log back in again. So let's come to that purchase order. Now, I can come and find a purchase order in a number of different ways, as you'll see when I click on the purchase order. I could, of course, just go down the list in priority order, or obviously in date order. I can filter it by a date, or I could filter it by the supplier, or as I'm about to do, I'm just going to come and find that one that I've literally just shown you, which is that 5221. Right, at this point, it's given me the two items that I need to book in along with a quantity of each. Now that top item has got a little tick box in because it's just flagging to me that it's something that I've marked as needing inspection. So that's really the purpose of that little tick box. And obviously I'll come and show you how we do that in a second. Now, for those of you who perhaps have suppliers that don't have barcode items when they ship them to you, please don't worry. As you'll see me do now, I don't have barcode labels for these items, but I can book them in and then produce a barcode label to put on the items if I wanted to. So I'm going to book that item in, and I'm going to book 10 of those, but you'll see that if I now come and confirm, I can print the label at this point. I can confirm receipt, or I can confirm receipt and put them straight away. Now, if this was something that I was going to be using in a works order, I could actually confirm the receipt and allocate and issue it straight away to the works order. So I'm going to just confirm receipt for the purpose of today. And then what I'm going to do is confirm that, and then we'll come and receive those separately, as I'll come and show you in a second. Now, if I whiz back into Sage, you'll see, if I come back to Sage screen, we'll come and show you that that's now been received. So as I said, no paper trail, no staff having to come in and key this in to say that they've received it or any delays. That's literally, how quick is that? That's now showing me that both those lines have actually been received. It's literally as quick as that. So let's come and put those items away, and bear with me while I just flick back to my device again. So this is where I was saying we can do this in a number of different ways. So I can either put my item away one at a time. So if I come and find that sugar initially, and then what we'll do is we'll come and inspect the coffee machine. It's basically showing me the bin locations, that's the areas, as I was talking about earlier on, that this item is stored in. Now, if you're the type of organisation that stores the same item in multiple locations, we just simply list them in here in priority order for you. So you tell us which order that you want them to be put away in, and that's simply how they would show in here. So it's telling me that I have all of those items to be put away into the unspecified, and I'm just going to say I'm going to put 15 of those away for now into the unspecified. Done. Confirm movement. And it's as easy as that. So that's now been moved from the goods in location to that new location.
Yeah,
Now,
and if you're familiar with Sage 200, you can see that that's a little more arduous in if you're carrying through that actual process.
right, let's come and do that inspection process. So you saw earlier on that when I booked that item in, there was a little tick box in a square on that purchase order. So I've come to my inspection bin location. Obviously, I could scan that bin location, or as I've just done, I could type it in. And I'm going to come and basically come and check a couple of those. And I'm going to say I've passed 3 of those. And this is where you now have the ability to have a configurable set of questions. You don't have to, by the way, if you just want to make it a simple pass or fail, that's fine. So you could have a drop-down box with yes or no already predefined. You could have a free text. You could have a date field. I could take a photo. It's entirely up to you. There's a whole string of different ways that you can set up that configurable set of question and answer. And again, all I do now is I can come and say, right, I'm going to put that coffee machine away. So if we come and find that coffee machine, this is where I can now say, there we go. There's a good example of I've got multiple locations that item is stored in. And this is where I can say, right, I'm going to put one of those items away into that bin location. Confirm now. It's telling me this is a good example actually of that wave put away. So it's telling me that I've already put this in a wave location. Oh, not a location, a wave put away. So this is where I can create this myself. So I could say, look, just show me all of the outstanding purchase orders along with the quantities. And I could just go down the list and pop in the quantity that I'm going to create. Or as I'll show you, if I show you one that I've already got in here, I can say, show me a wave that I've already got and show me what I need to put away and the quantity. Right, so that's telling me I need to put 500 of those away in the unspecified bin location. Done. Go to my next item, and again, that's telling me I have 500 of those to put away. Done. That's confirmed the movement. So as I said, wave put away is about consolidating multiple items, multiple purchase orders up together. So rather than me having to put one purchase order away at a time, one line at a time, I just go, right, show me all the purchase orders. And now I'm going to wheel my cart around the warehouse and I'm going to put everything away. And that could be a different person, or it could be the same person that's booking the items in. Right, let's come and do a dispatch, shall we? So let's just flick between my screens again and come back to Sage for a second. And let's come to sales order processing. So you'll see in the same vein as we had with purchase order processing, if I come to my sales order list and come and just show you that for a second, we actually have a couple of additional bits of functionality on a standard Sage sales order. So the first is this little ready to pick. So we have some customers that say to us, we want to have the ability to control which orders appear on the device because we don't want our guys seeing all of the orders just yet. And that's essentially the mechanism to do that. Now we have other customers that say, look, do you know what? As soon as an order goes on, as long as we've got the stock and we've allocated, we want it to appear. In which case that's just simply defaulted. You don't have to keep ticking it when you're ready for it to be picked. Now, the other thing that we can do is we can assign it to a specific picker, or we just leave it open. And if you've got multiple staff, all of your staff will simply see it then on their device and anybody can pick it. It'll show you how much is then remaining. Now, we can also link this to our courier integration module. So you can buy barcoding on its own, you can buy courier integration on its own, or of course you can buy the two together. And all that simply means is that instead of your staff having to go onto the courier's website to put in the weight, the customer details, number of packages, the address, etc., we just simply store the weight and information in the background. So you'll see we just have a little extra column there that shows the weight of that item. and we'll just simply talk to the courier in order to give them that information, and then pull down, as you'll see in a moment, the label to attach to the box. We'll update the sales order with the tracking information. Now, I've actually got this set up to default to DPD next day. So whenever we ship out an order for Sicon, we always want Sicon's order to go next day through DPD. But of course, you can change that. There are various different couriers that we link with. All of them are set up on our website, so it's probably worthwhile maybe Howard, you giving a list with a link to our website so that the customers can see the different couriers that we link with.
Yeah.
So the other thing, lastly, before I come and show you dispatching this, the last thing that we can do is we've also got the ability, just open that up again, to link to the standard Sage order priority. So if you've got certain customers that you always want to get out as a priority, obviously A is going to come to the top of the list, as you'll see in a moment. That just simply means that it will literally jump to the top of the list on the device for you. So let's just come and save that and come out of that screen and come to the device. And you'll see in a second, let's come out of there. If I now come to my device, sorry, this is just one of our other modules. I've got too much turned on, haven't I? We have about 30 different modules, and I think I've got every single one turned on. Right, let me come to my device again now. So you'll see if I come to my sales order now, again, I can dispatch this and filter in a number of different ways. I don't know if you can see there's a little filter option on that right-hand corner. This allows me the ability to filter my sales orders by any one of these options. So these are just pulling through the standard Sage analysis codes on sales order processing. I can filter it by a priority, or if I come out of that, you'll see, I don't know if everybody can see on the right-hand corner, we've got on the right-hand side, there's those A's, which is the priority that I was talking about. But again, of course, I can filter by the customer. I can filter, as I'm about to do again, by the sales order number. So if we come and find that sales order number, there we go, there's that Sicon. It's now prompting me. So as I mentioned right at the very beginning, one of the other examples of wave picking is us consolidating multiple customers' orders up together. So this is just prompting me. Look, you've already got a couple of other orders on for the same address. Do you want me to create a wave pick? In other words, we're going to consolidate them all up together for you. I'm going to say no for the purpose of today, because I just want to show you this one order. And you'll see all that's going to pull through now is the sales order number. So again, no paper trail, no details needing to be printed. We've got the delivery details. We can, of course, pull through any analysis codes that have been populated onto that sales order and the quantity to pick. And then very simply, it's telling me what I need to pick. And again, there's that bin location as to where I need to go to. So I'm going to go to that bin location and I'm going to go and pick that item. Now I've also got an image of that item just in case I don't know what an espresso machine looks like. I think I probably know by now over the years with the demos how to be fair.
Yeah, you could probably make them.
Yes, right, we're going. Right, now I could get to that bin location and there might be a problem. So we've given your staff the flexibility to do a number of different things. The first is that I might need to change the bin location. The second is I might need to report a problem, or I could just simply revert back to see the sales order information. So that's the other option. Now, of course, once again, if I've got a barcode label, I could scan this. And at that point, it's now picked. Now, for those of you who perhaps have a separate packing process, we can set that up literally as a separate packing process. For those of you that doesn't relate to, don't worry, we can literally just say pick and dispatch and that's it. Now, if I am packing these items, you can simply just pull through, you can call these packages, but anything you like, by the way, don't take any notice of what I've got in here. So in the background, you'd have all of your different packages and different types of packages. So I can say the package that I'm putting it into. Now, I've also got the ability to take a photo. Now, interestingly enough, I'm finding more and more customers are doing this, Howard. So what we're finding is this is really beneficial, particularly for customers who are shipping through couriers. You know, we all know that items get lost and mishandled and damaged, or perhaps customers have suggested that, you know, there's been a problem with the item that's been delivered. So this is a really good way of basically taking a photo, and you've then got evidence, as you'll see in a moment, back against the sales order that's then stored as an image. So for those of you that have already got our documents module, I think Patrick at UTS, I don't know if he's on the session today, but UTS have got our documents module. So Patrick, this is a really good way of linking together barcoding and documents. And then fairly simply, all we then do is we say, right, we are packing that item and we're going to dispatch it. And then this is where it's now going to link to the courier's website. But of course, I can print the packing list. I can dispatch all of the packed items. I can even unpack it. So worst case scenario, let's say the customer phones up and says, hang fire on that order. We can at least unpack it and put it all back away on the shelf. And you can, if you wanted to, give your staff the option to change that delivery service if necessary. But again, just for the purpose of the demo today, I'm going to say, yeah, we want to dispatch it. As I said, this is now where it's talking to, in my case, DPD. And as you'll see in 2 seconds, that will now revert back to saying it's been dispatched and back against the sales order. There we go. That's now dispatched. And if I just come and show you the sales order, a couple of things have now happened. Let's move that camera out of the way a second. Let's move you over there for a bit. So you'll see the first thing is, yes, you'll see that it's now been dispatched. There we go. So again, no paper trail. The second thing that's happened, sorry, I'm just trying to open that screen up a little bit more for us. The second thing that's happened is, let's just open that up. So if I get full screen, I lose the bottom of the screen. There's our little documents module. Now, this is a separate module to barcoding, so you would have to pay for this separately. But there we go. There's the image, along with it's also stored and attached a copy of the dispatch note against that sales order for you at the same time. But the other thing that's happened is it's automatically picked up. There you go. The tracking number, the courier shipment ID, the courier, and the service that that's been shipped through to. And if I just very quickly show you an example of that label, obviously this would be something that you guys would be printing in the warehouse, but there we go. There's the label that's been printed without me having to go onto the website and do all of that. It's done it all automatically for me. Now, using that little documents module that I mentioned, that can also be emailed out automatically. So that can pick up your dispatch note. It can also pick up the tracking number for your customer, all in the email, all at the same time, automatically shipped out. So again, if that's something of interest, just let Howard know and he can pick that up with you separately.
And I would imagine the same thing on the purchasing side, in recording some of the documentation as well, for the purpose of matching up all the AP stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. In fact, I should have shown that on purchase orders. I completely forgot to show on the purchase orders, but you're spot on, Howard. You can thank you for reminding me of that one. You've got the ability to attach that at a purchase order level as well. Right, let's pick up the other areas that we haven't picked up on so far. So I mentioned that we've got the ability to move stock between our locations, whether that's multiple items or whether that's one single item. So if I come and find my, I'm going to say AC10A for the purpose of today. So we're going to find, again, obviously, if you've set barcoding up with against all of your locations, then of course I'd be able to go to the shelf or the area and just simply scan that. And all it's doing now is it's just showing me what I should be finding that location. So I'm simply going to say, right, I would like to move that LC display unit. And again, it's listing in priority order the other bin locations that that's typically stored in. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to move one of those and I'm going to move it to that location. Done. Confirm movement. Done. So in your stock inquiries back in Sage, it's now moved from that one location to the other. Again, nice and simple.
Not all very important if you have sales staff who are standing over sales orders and they need live stock information directly straight away. Where is it? Where is it coming from? You know, as they build up those sales orders, you know, the person in the warehouse knows exactly where they're getting it from.
Yeah, exactly. So this is really about having real-time live stock information. You know, where is your stock? More often than not, I know Howard and I, when we talk to customers, that's usually one of the biggest problems that customers have, is having a handle on where their stock is. How much stock have they actually got? Where is it? Who's got it? That's the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems that customers have. So that having that real-time information feeding back and forth to Sage saves all of that manual paper process, and it's giving you, you know,
Yeah,
up-to-date
and
information.
just to give a journey from just a couple of different clients' perspectives. Some people who would have started off using, for instance, Sage 50, for example, they would have used stock in a very simple sense. In, you know, there's no real connecting kind of how would you say, stock, sales, and purchase orders, and they invariably move over to something like Sage 200 for the purpose of having those things integrated, even with what was I going to say? Even with the stock integrated with the sales and the purchase order module, and also with the traceability in tow as well, there's still a degree of paperwork that you need to get through, and there's still a more manual process in how you're actually achieving that. So what you're doing is you're tying up absolutely everything, all of the good stuff that's in Sage 200 from, you know, and putting it onto an actual mobile device for anybody who doesn't need to be tied up in all the bureaucracy of all that paperwork, and they can just get through the actual process relatively quickly with, you know, without seeing the join.
Right, I'm coming back into Sage because I want to show you the two different ways that we can do a stock take. Now, I know 9 times out of 10 when customers do stock takes, it's a good old spreadsheet or a good old paper. They have their staff writing everything down, and then those bits of paper have to go to the poor person in the office that then has to manually key all of that information in. You don't have to do any of that anymore. So what we are going to do, though, is we're still going to produce the report from Sage. So this is what I'm doing in the first instance. Hopefully it will let me produce a new report, because as you can imagine, I've produced so many stock reports with so many demos. It's I'm entering information on so many, it's probably going to say I can't have a new report, but let's see. Hopefully it'll let me. Yeah, it's got a few failed items. Right, so let's flick back to the barcoding device a second. So I've produced the report, but what I haven't had to do, as you'll see now, is I haven't had to print that report. So if I now come back into Sage, you'll see I've got two options when it comes to a stock take. We'll come back to the dynamic one in a minute. Let's concentrate on that one that we've literally just produced. So you'll see at the bottom of the screen, if I come into my stock take report, it just simply lists the bin locations for you in each of your warehouses that you need to do a stock take on. And when I then go into that bin location, it's just simply going to list all of the items that I need to do a stock take on. Now, you've got two options on how the information gets presented on this screen. Some customers, as I've got here, don't like to tell the staff how many they should be looking for. I must admit, I am of that opinion that that's the better way of doing a stock take. We do have other customers, though, strangely, that like to say, no, we like to tell the staff how many they should be finding. And we can do that for you if you want to. So we can have the number on the screen as to how many they should be finding. So all I'm simply going to do is say, right, I found 5 of those. I found 5 of those. I'm going to say I found 1 of those. I've done 1 of those. So we literally, all we're doing is we're going down the screen. I've confirmed my stock take, and you'll see now when we flick back into Sage a second, the advantage of this now is that I've not had to key anything in. What it will do is it will show me a discrepancy report. So basically, when I come back into Sage, it shows the expected quantity, and it now shows obviously the quantity that I've literally just counted. So huge time saving involved. I've not had to manually key all of that information in from the report the guys have been writing on. And of course, if there's a massive discrepancy between the two, so let's say I should have been finding a lot more than was expected, then that's when you could then go back to your staff and say, come on, you need to do a restock. Something's not right here. The other thing that we have as part and parcel of a stock report, in fact, if you bear with me 2 seconds, let me find another one that might hopefully have batch traceability on it. Yeah, that does have batch traceability. Yeah, it does. Perfect example. So this is a great example actually of batch traceability. So we have that extra little button, something that all of you know when you're doing a stock take and standard Sage. Standard Sage doesn't have this additional information, strangely. So when you're trying to do a stock take report, there's no way of maintaining the information on the batch details, whether that's serial date information. We do that. So that information that would have been captured when you did the stock take on the device, and again, by the way, if it is a batch detail, whether it's serial numbers, expiry dates, whatever the case may be, your staff will be forced to put that information in. And it just simply stores it alongside the stock information. So you always know which batches your guys have actually done the stock take on. So again, that's just an extra bit of information that we just simply capture on the standard Sage stock take report for you. Now, in addition to that, we also have the ability, if I come back to the device for a second, to do what we call a dynamic stock take. So this is where you don't need to do a full-blown stock take on every single warehouse bin location and stock item. You just want to do a quick one on the fly. And I'm going to say I want to do, sorry, if I actually create a new one, it would help. So I'm going to say I want to create a stock take for Barocca because it's that time of day. Clearly, I should have had some. And all it's going to do now, again, just like the other report, to be fair, is it's just going to give me the bin locations that I need to go through. So that's my first bin location, and I should be expecting, there we go, to find 3. I'm going to say I've only found 1, and I'm going to go to the next bin location. And again, it's going to tell me I've actually found 3 on that location. Now, one of the other things that we've given you the ability to do, in fact, we're very shortly in the next release version going to be adding this into the standard Sage stock report, is we've also given you the ability to be able to add a stock item. So if you found an item that shouldn't be in that location, we give you the ability to scan that item in and add it in, which of course will then update Sage. So as you know, when you're doing a stock take, there is no ability to be able to say, well, I've found something that's not normally in that location. There isn't any ability in standard Sage to do that. So at the moment, that's just purely in the dynamic stock take. But as I said, we will be in the next, I think it's the next release version, we're adding that into the standard Sage stock report as well. Now, the other thing that we have the ability to do is do a quick stock take inquiry. So again, if I use that little Barocca as a great example, so I'm going to say I'm looking for some Barocca. Where is it? Tell me where it is in the building. So I've got a list of that information. I've got the locations. And again, these are listing the bin locations for me, along with there's my failed bin location. So I've got free stock. Now, when we talk about free stock, that's net of any allocations and any allocation priorities. And then finally, if there's still some left on an order to come in, I can see the purchase order number, the supplier, the purchase order number, and then the quantity and the quantity that's outstanding. So just a really simple lookup for me to be able to find items if I'm trying to look for something and see where they are and how many's left over. Now, I'm not going to go into these other areas in a great depth, but I just briefly wanted to touch on these areas just in case they happen to be relevant for you. So receive container links to our container manager in distribution. So for any of you who perhaps ship, literally as the name suggests, via container, instead of you having to book in each purchase order separately and each line on each purchase order separately, we have the ability to book in the whole of the container. As you can imagine, much simpler, much quicker, much easier. Now, Container Manager does an awful lot more than that. So things like tracking, updating tracking if there's delays, etc. But that's basically the main purpose of that, linking barcoding to Container Manager. The other thing that I alluded to earlier on is projects. So we have a project suite that allows us to directly issue stock out of stock to the project. So essentially it's just moving that stock from your warehouses directly to the project. For those of you who perhaps might need to bring stock in to Sage that It's not necessarily related to a purchase order. We can add stock in, as I mentioned earlier on. We can obviously also write stock off. For any of you who are manufacturing that perhaps have bill of materials, our work sort of processing links to bill of materials, and this is our mechanism to be able to pick essentially all of the components that we need in order to manufacture that finished item, and then down stock those individual components and book into stock the finished item. And there's various ways that we can do that, as you can see. We also have what's called a kitting module, which is a very, very simplified bill of materials. So for some of you, perhaps just package things together. And again, it works in the same sort of method as a BOM, in the sense that you've got your finished item and your sales order, and you've got your individual components that you're picking. So we're just simply down stocking the individual components, and we're booking back into stock the finished item. Now, it doesn't need to be linked to a sales order, by the way. We're just simply managing the stock inside of Sage. But we can also do a reverse. So for any of you who perhaps bring in stock items, we've got a customer who has a butchery business, and they bring in, I do hope we haven't got any vegetarians and vegans on the session before I go mentioning this.
I was going to suggest.
She says quickly, Howard. So basically what they do is they bring in whole goats and butcher the joints down. So instead of whole goats being in their stock, they end up with obviously joints. But they also bring in massive kilo bags, huge kilo bags of rice, and then resell them in smaller kilo, 1 kilo and 500 bags. Again, that's just an easy way for him to tell Sage what he's ended up with once they've gone through that process. Now, replenishment is just an easy mechanism to keep stock, again, usually for customers who manufacture, where perhaps they might have a bulk location, not necessarily manufacture. So it might be that you want to keep a certain amount of stock in your main location, and all we're doing is we're simply replenishing that stock. So again, it's just an easy way of moving stock from your bulk location typically to that local storage location. So as you can imagine, there's an awful lot more of details that I could be going through with you this afternoon, but I think hopefully that's picked up the kind of the main areas and certainly the main advantage of barcoding for you. So I don't know, Howard, if are there any questions?
Look, before we have a take, if anybody would like to put any more questions in, I know there's one there to get to just yet, but just to reiterate as well, not everybody uses all these options as well. They can be switched on, switched off. You can keep it specific to certain people in the warehouse who are just receiving stock, for instance. So it's just to show you the ability of things that we can do with Sicon barcoding here. So look, I'll just take a quick look, because we did have a question earlier on. It was that follow-up to the wave picking. So I think it was from Karthik, who'd asked, can wave picks be modified once they're released for the picking process? If so, how?
So if you've created it yourself in the Sage module, you can, as long as they haven't been picked. Of course, the minute you start to pick them, then obviously you can't modify it. But yes, you do have the ability back in Sage to modify it, and you've also got the ability to go back in to add to it as well.
Very good. Just trying to think if there was anything else specific that we wanted to sort of look at here as well. I think you can see there are elements in there. Obviously, when you're looking at stock control in general, I mean, Sarah alluded to the fact that this is tied immediately into Sage's sales and purchase order process, but they also have a distribution piece that factors into that as well. And likewise, as you saw there on screen a moment ago, it also factors into things like manufacturing and production as well. You can see the works orders there too. So again, what I would suggest to anybody is to reach out to us if they would like us to delve a little deeper into the specific requirement that they actually have, and we can have a chat directly to you. We've already had people, unfortunately, couldn't actually attend today, but we're organizing separate sort of personal sessions with them. So feel free to reach out to myself, and I'll be happy to organize it based on your own availability. I'm just seeing, I don't think we've any further questions here. I would hope that we hit all the beats for people. Apologies earlier on for just the breakdown of TeamViewer not giving us access to the actual app earlier on. But look, those things happen. The gremlins get out. So yeah, look, what I would say to everybody is that, just sharing it here on screen here at the moment, that's there are my contact details there. If you want to reach out to us, we're very happy to talk to you. But I will be putting this up on YouTube on our channel at some stage later on today. I'll add a few of the links in there as well for some of the things we spoke about earlier on. So we'll add in links for some of the other videos that we've done on Sicon documents, how that can factor into this, the projects as well, distribution, and of course, with regards to the couriers as well. Or not was it the courier when we were talking about the couriers that you actually link with?
Yeah.
We'll stick that link in there as well. So
Perfect.
yeah, I think we're actually done.
Yeah.
I would thank our Karthik's actually typing here frantically, so we're going to hang on for Karthik just so we can, just in case there was anything else that we missed. No, thanks very much, Anne. I appreciate that. No, I don't see anything else coming in here.
I can't
well,
see
look, not
either.
a bother at all. Well, listen, thanks very much, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Thanks again to Sarah. You absolutely got through that, absolutely blind, and despite what happened, right? So look, thanks everybody for joining us, and have a great afternoon. Take care.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.